everyone, welcome back to It's a Sign podcast. I'm Helki.
And this is Bianx.
Yeah. It's me and Bianx today.
New podcast host. I'm just sitting here in the background supporting her opinions.
Today we're doing a little bit of a different style where we're going to be reacting to some videos that each of us have found on the internet related to a similar kind of topic. And today's topic is psychic kids or starseed children or crystal children. They come under all different names, but basically these are unique, shall we say, children who are able to remember past lives or have special psychic abilities or can see and communicate with other beings and dimensions. Very fascinating to dive into this topic and see what is out there in the world.
And also we're gonna dive into some of the more darker aspects of this topic, and I found some pretty worrying things with gurus and teachers using and manipulating children in a very X-Men Marvel superheroes sort of development, putting them through a lot of hardship and trauma in order to uncover these psychic powers, and kind of be exploring kind of some of the themes of what's a scam, what's real, what's not, and we just kind of want to look over all these things.
So we're going to really mix it up with stuff. We're going to start with some kids that I found on TikTok who come under this category basically. Then we will go into the more cult stuff that Trey has been researching, and then I have some reincarnation stories we hopefully will have time to cover. If not, we might be doing a part 2 to this episode.
And if you guys haven't checked out our newest series, we're trying something different, and we're basically going to be continuing to release different mini-series with roughly 6 episodes each with more concrete packed information. We have a mini-series on a really cool topic about the Vril and Thule Society. There's some awesome story in there, and it's a different type of mini-series, and we want to continue to produce these mini-series because we have a lot of fun making them. And we're about 3 episodes into the Vril series with 3 more coming, so look forward to that. And yeah, let's get on with the podcast. I'm excited to see what videos you've picked out because I haven't seen any of them. I guess what we'll do is we'll sort of play the videos and we can pause them as we go along to sort of discuss what we're seeing, and then we'll comment on it. So first we will start on TikTok. So there was 2 psychic or starseed kids that I was seeing the most on TikTok. Their parents were helping them create the most content, the most videos. So I definitely wanted to touch on these kids. Yeah, and I guess before we even touch on them, there's just the question in the air towards the efficacy of them even being online.
Yeah.
Having these children online for people to see.
I actually have another video at the end of watching the TikTok kids where one psychic who works with children and developing their skills commented on parents doing this and is it ethical, is it right, exploiting the children when they should be nurturing these gifts. But he was actually commenting on parents who kind of see it as funny, don't take it seriously that he's seeing ghosts and spirits. I think there should be help around that for kids, with people who understand what they're seeing, rather than it being mocked. So the first one, the one I found most interesting, was this little girl called Sevyn. Great name. She claims to be a Blue Avian, is it?
Blue Avian?
I'm not great at remembering all these alien names.
You kind of said it in a Frenchy way.
Avians?
Avian, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Blue Avian. So she claims to be,
Maybe it is
at least
Avian.
in her past life, a Blue Avian who chose to come here to help the Earth at this time. And she's very young, like she's called Sevyn, but my guess is she's around 7 years old also. So I have quite a few videos from her. I definitely want us to watch quite a few of her videos.
Are the Anunnaki bad?
No.
What are they here for?
They're here to help people with us. And they're here to heal people.
They did some bad things before, right?
Yeah.
Why?
'Cause they used to be bad, but not anymore. They learned their lesson because we taught them. Just like I told my mom that the bad guys that we try to fight, we calm them down, help them, we make them not mean again, and they don't destroy any more planets.
Are the Anunnaki?
That was her talking about the Anunnaki, but I do just want to run through quite a few of her videos and then we can discuss it.
You tell me about the reptilians, baby.
Sure. Reptilians are... They're different. They're different of the same, of the dragons. They try to be mean. Well, they don't try to be mean, but reptilians think they're the best fighters. But that's not correct. They are good fighters, yes, but we are all a team in life. We should not be fighting right now. We should be friends right now. We should be kind to one another.
Are the reptilians willing to do that? No.
Because they're trying to. I mean, they're not trying to, but they're trying to make them. They wanted to turn it.
Some people say it's because that they think Earth is theirs.
No, not reptilians. No. But we are very powerful. I know it. We are going to help these reptilians. We're going to help them.
They're gonna help reptilians? Is it just the Blue Avians, or who else is part of your team?
We have other type of aliens, but we have to be careful around them because they sometimes be mean because they think their team is the best, but we're friends. We're friends. We are friends. We talk a lot together, and yeah.
Is that when you have to go for meetings at night and stuff? Is it with them?
Yeah, we have a meeting together, but sometimes it's alone.
Okay. You tell me about the reptile. Sevy, is this the first time that Blue Avians are coming to Earth in children like this?
Yes,
And why did they decide to come?
because they wanted to visit all the other kids.
Oh, because they think the kids are the future?
Yes.
And they think that kids are going to change the world?
Yes.
You think you guys are going to change the world? Yeah, I believe it too. What kind of technology do you have on your planet for the Blue Avians?
A tablet that has the history of everything you want to know.
That everything you want to know?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, you guys have spaceships there?
Yes, we do indeed.
What do they run on? Like what makes them fly?
Magnetic.
They're electric magnetic?
Mm-hmm.
That's how they fly? Wow. Have you been in one before?
Yes.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
Debbie, what do you eat on your planet?
We eat plants, and how long we could eat without eating food is a month.
You can go a whole month without any food? Do you not get hungry?
No.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Who else do you travel there?
Teleport.
You guys teleport? What does that mean to you?
means that we go from here. We could go from here. Bye. Then we could disappear from here, then go into that closet too. We could go anywhere, disappear from here.
Wow. Sevy, is this...
If how you get your mind to control you is whenever you're messing around with other people, your mind starts to get crazy and starts to swell up. So then your mind controls what your movements are and what you're doing.
Like when you're around mean people?
Kind of. You have to be careful of which people you talk to.
Oh, so certain people can mess up your mind? Like with their thoughts? Are those kind of people here on Earth? They're not on Earth?
But they are close.
Are they dangerous to us?
They're not dangerous because they know me. They know I'm trying to fix their mind. So then they are trying to stop doing that so I don't have to do that much work. But they can't. And we're the only ones who can fix those dragons.
And then there was one with her mum. I don't know if it might be good to watch a video from her mum so we can get an opinion from her.
So hi guys, I just wanted to give you the backstory on Sevyn's first really experiences and my experiences with her and her being taken. So she doesn't actually leave her body, her body's still in the room. But when she was 1.5 years old and we were living in Utah right after my divorce, when I was waking her up, I was seeing what looked like surgical scars that were scarred over her baby. And they had been there for a while, but they were new. And I know that they weren't there before. So I asked her, baby, where did you get these? And she told me, Omi. Omi is my mom. And I said, there's no way that was Omi because she's in Texas. And she just looked at me very confused. And I didn't quite put the pieces together for a while, but it was a little bit thereafter that I had Sherry Wild on my podcast, and I asked her, what do you think is going on here? Because my daughter's having these things, I'm seeing UFOs.
Scratches.
And then I forgot a couple of days later, I had an experience where I heard you cry, and my friend was at the house at the time we heard you cry, and so I went to go check on you, and when I opened the door, I felt this energy in the room, whoa, 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 and when I crossed the threshold, it was all gone. It was so weird, and it felt like a bunch of static electricity, I'm pretty sure my hair was standing on the end. And so I jumped over to your crib and got you awake, and you were just looking at me what's going on? And so I made you sleep in my room after that because I knew something was going on. And Sherry told me, she's being taken, and it's okay because she made this choice, and
And my mom was taken by who?
I didn't quite know what to make of it. And
She's taken by a stranger, taken by who?
No, I knew what she was talking about because I
She
knew it
was
was aliens.
taken by who?
And so they said first they show up as somebody you know, so as not to scare a child, right? Because if a child saw humanoid type being, that would probably be pretty scary at that age. So it wasn't until later that she started telling me, Mom, I'm not totally human, and I'm actually an alien, and that's kind of when that all started. So I just had
First impressions?
I think she's so interesting.
I think I think there's a potential she could be having things, but it's also hard because in those clips it's a lot of leading questions. Yeah. And they're using terminology that are very, I don't know, unless it's those beings transmit those names to people so that they have something familiar to look onto, but it's the Anunnaki, the reptilians, the Blue Avians, the fact that she even knows about it, those names, in the context that they're in, probably means that she's been exposed to that content. Her mother is maybe into that.
Yeah.
It seems And so they made me look at those things together. She could have been brought to that mother for a reason so that she could like remember quicker. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, a lot of leading questions. She's not really like giving a download or a channel. There's a couple moments, but I feel like it's a lot of leading questions. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about it. What do you think?
I totally see that perspective
Yeah.
that you have. I was thinking, oh, that could be the case. And, you know, obviously her mum is spiritual. When children have these abilities, they still have children vocabulary, and they still are kids, and that's what they are. It's all they can work with. So they're working within, you know, they don't have the language that an advanced alien being has, or even a grown human who can then channel that much clearer. But even grown channelers say they struggle to channel direct. I think, like, when I watch her, it felt genuine. It felt like she was genuinely having memories, and she was just saying them in the best way she could whilst in her child human body. They are called the Anunnaki. Like, they are called the Reptilian and the Blue Avians. So I believe that, like, we're called the humans. I believe when you're out of body or in one of those bodies, we still go by those names in this game.
What I've experienced out of body is that most of those beings don't have names. They're more like...
But they're talking telepathically.
Yeah, but
they would...
It's normally afterwards. Like if I've experienced an entity or something, and then I see their visual description that I remember, I'll type it into Google or something and see if anyone's talked about it. And then only then will I begin to see like, oh, these people call these the Blue Avians, or these people call them
that could be that also. But like, I guess how I see it is there's source point. So when you go back to your soul, you know, when you've had those experiences on DMT and things like meditation even, and I've had it in meditation where you go back to the nothingness, right? But I don't believe all this stuff is back there. I believe it's also a part of the big game platform. Like Earth is a part of a game, and I think all the other planets are other experiences you can choose to play in those games, and they overlap sometimes. So there's certain beings who are overlapping with Earth and working with Earth, even if they can't energetically be here. I do really believe in the Starseed thing, where someone has been playing, most of their experience has been played on a different planet, and they've chose to come to Earth for a certain reason at this time. Because it's almost like she's just had all this experience as a Blue Avian. This is her first time here, and it's just like, it's like she literally is still that being. And I do believe, like, before the age of 7, we have a lot of access to past life memories, and especially if it's nighttime, she's like literally still going into meetings and stuff at nighttime, because when she goes into her soul self, she's no longer a child. She's just that soul energy, the astral out of body energy that can do what they like.
And I don't discount her statements if she's really having those sorts of experiences, but I do also know as a child, like, I mean, I heavily related and identified with the whole Starseed narrative when I was first going through a conscious awakening.
You have Starseed energy.
And I was connecting with a lot of entities, so I have no doubt that they exist out there. There's beings that are far more advanced at this current stage in time and much less material.
Yeah.
So not operating
Physical.
in a 3-dimensional reality. And then at the same time, I also identified as a lot of different things as a kid. I could try on costumes and become a different person, but you believe that as a child. You really become that. And I was not exposed to any of this stuff as a child. My parents were always very skeptical. ETs, oh, who cares? They're probably not real. There's maybe some out there, but there was no influence. No one was telling me stories about aliens or so all.
But did you back then like have this connection with your starseed self, or like have this kind of, was your imagination going into this realm, or was it sticking with I'm playing Harry Potter? I get what you're trying to push, like is it just her imagination, right?
Yeah, or is it is it her just being like, these are really cool, let me
her mum's
imagine
into it.
this. Yeah.
But I do have an interesting point where I feel, okay, maybe that's not real. That doesn't have to be the case, sorry, not that that's not real, because with my own experience. When I was younger and I hated ET, I wasn't into aliens at all. I was terrified of ET, actually. But for about 2 years of my life, around the age of, it was somewhere between like 6 and 7, and I truly believed, me and my best friend truly believed that we were aliens. And what I'm saying here is I had no content making me want to pretend to be an alien. I wasn't watching anything. The only thing I'd seen with aliens was E.T., which I hated.
Yeah.
And it came out of nowhere. I don't even remember the day we came up with it, that created this thing, but it was such a strong belief. Like we would go into the playground and go and find these old lollipop sticks in the dirt, and they were made out of paper, and we'd unroll these lollipop sticks and we'd hold them up to the sun and we'd read out messages that only we could see. Like we really truly believed that we were getting messages from this paper and read them out to each other from our families up on other planets. And we were crying. Like we used to cry. We used to be like, we feel so lonely here. We just want to go home. Please take us home. And it just went on for ages. And then it just faded out one day. It was almost like, when I look back now, I'm like, were we connecting with something? Because where the hell did that come from? And I was definitely not the kind of kid. I was into princesses and, it's very girly, and I hadn't found my inner witch yet or anything. Like I didn't have anything that would push me towards creating up that narrative. Yeah. So I have that own personal experience to be like, your imagination doesn't always come from outside influences. And what is the imagination then at this point, especially now that I work in tarot and I can actually use my inner mind, inner vision to see things through the cards for other people and, be able to know things about their life that I could never have known.
Yeah.
Because I'm using that inner vision, which is basically imagination. So if imagination is not sparked from outside influence, then what is that? And especially when you use it in things like psychic predictions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fine line between vision and imagination. I feel like imagination's generated and vision is like...
I think imagination could be seen as outside influence.
I mean, when I was a kid, I used to have like a dragon friend.
But he used to say you weren't connecting with a dragon spirit guide.
Yeah, you never know.
Because I have dragon spirit guides. I know that dragons, even that little girl mentioned dragons.
Yeah, but she was referring to the reptilian dragons.
She said that the reptilians, they're very similar to the dragons, but they're not the same.
Because I wonder...
She sees dragons as mind controllers. And I really truly believe that just like humans, there's good and bad in all humans, right? You get good ones and more ones who are more driven towards bad things than people who sit in the middle. And I think that with all species, but there'll be a stronger percentage to either end. Like reptilians will have more bad guys, but they'll have some good people there too. And with the dragons, there's some really good dragons out there, and there's also some bad dragons. And I get, like, for a lot of people who are listening to this, like, I can hear how absolutely crazy this conversation can sound. But I guess I'm just sort of saying, like, I'm not 100% believing Sevyn and everything she said, but
I believe her. I believe she believes what she believes.
Yeah.
It's hard to know with a child's imagination or a child's innocence and their connection, because I know that children are actually operating in a theta brainwave state for their youth, which is the brainwave state of dreaming, which is why when children, like, watch a movie, they can't distinguish, like, is this real or is it fiction? You know, they'll watch a movie.
Yeah, but I'm like that when I'm watching a movie.
Yeah,
I feel like it's really happening to me and I can't handle it.
Yeah. But I remember as a kid watching something and believing this was real. That theta brainwave state blurs the boundary between imagination and reality. At the same time, that theta brainwave state allows you access into deep states of meditation, into more feelings of oneness. So especially when you're waking in the theta state, which is why children are so imaginative and so creative, is because they're living theta, whereas adults were typically operating in a beta frequency or alpha, which is related with focus, clarity, anxiety, task management. And I think we've been bred out of our theta brainwave state through education and schooling. So yeah, it is a tough one to know. Do you have any ones that are like...
Yeah, I've got another TikTok kid. When I search like Starseed Kids, Crystal Children, it's their videos coming up the most. So I felt like these were the ones to focus on. But I did want to watch what she says about the Greys. Should we see?
Sevyn, what do you know about the Grey aliens?
Some of them are human, like you and me, and then some of them are machines.
Are they nice?
Yes, very like super nice, but they are strict.
Are they here to help humans? Where have you met them at?
On my planet, they just came on their ship, and I'm one of their friends.
What do their ships look like?
It's like blue with like it's shaped as like a hand, like without the fingers.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and then like it's like blue. That's like it's blue and like and they're just beautiful. They're nice, but they're not just like over emotional.
The Greys. What else can you tell me about them?
I don't really have anything else, but maybe when I remember something else, I could tell you in the next video.
What's one of your favorite races besides the Greys? Or besides your race?
I actually don't really know. I don't have any favorites.
What about the Arcturians then?
The Arcturians, like, they're nice or something?
Well, just what are they like? What do they look like?
Like strict, mean, rude, but they're nice also.
What do they look like?
They're like grayish, bluish, whatever. I don't know, but like, they're like, I know them and they're nice to me and we're friends, but like, they are mean to me and rude sometimes. Very like strict. And what I do with them.
Are they like no nonsense?
No, they're like they're still actually very important because they weren't talked about like until like a long time.
They weren't talked about until a long time? What do you mean, until recently?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's like she doesn't want to be doing the answering any questions.
Yeah, especially in that video, whereas in the other videos I felt like she was more wanting to.
And there's no deeper insights into things. Like, yeah, most people know that the Greys are part human, part machine.
But I was surprised that she said the Greys are really nice.
Yeah, she said they're nice but strict, and they're not overly emotional. She said some of them are human, some of them are machine. And the theories of the Greys are that they're a divergent timeline where what will happen to us if we kind of synthesize with machine. She's not really giving any deeper insights, and it's like she doesn't really want to be doing it. I mean, I don't discredit her or like that she's not seeing these things or imagining these things.
I think also,
but I used to have imaginary conversations with things all the time.
We don't know if they're imaginary.
Don't know. Yeah, we don't know.
You don't know if you were really having a conversation.
Yeah, it's true.
With beings that can easily communicate with kids that can actually see them.
Yeah.
I have like some notes at the end that I want to go over that's just talking about these types of kids in general. But I think another thing I feel like with that video, I feel like she's now going to be, as kids start to get a bit older, the less they're in that world, the more they're in this world. And it becomes less information and less interest in it.
What is the point of being alive? What is the point of existence?
That's me.
Yeah.
To fill in what we call white space and dark space.
Okay, to fill in white space and dark space.
Yep.
Okay, and what is the point for humans to exist? What do we get out of it?
Humans aren't the main species. It's a good thing because the benefit is it's helping. It's giving a balance.
That's amazing.
It's giving a balance to the places so they're all equal.
If heaven is so amazing and beautiful, why would we choose to come back and do reality again on Earth or any other planet?
Reality would still be like that type of space. The reason was why is what I already said. Fill in the gaps. Being here, we want to experience filling up this place because we need it to in order to make sure that nothing happens. We want to make sure that this place is good and ready.
Oh, I love that.
For if anything did happen.
So we're here to kind of help protect it?
Yep.
Most of us, I would think.
Yeah. We come to dark space to experience good and bad.
Okay, so not just positive in heaven, so here we can have both.
Yeah, so fill in and make sure it's equal.
Oh, I love that.
The God energy it's every, like, think of every speck of anything, every pixel of what you see, everything, every atom, everything that makes an atom, every piece of energy, that is all created by one source. That source has always existed. So if it always existed, you know what? Everything always existed. Because it is basically everything. If it didn't exist, everything would be a void of nothingness.
That's true.
There'd be nothing. It wouldn't even be a void. It would just be nothing. Nothing. It wouldn't even be nothing. You get what I mean. It would just be emptiness.
It
wouldn't even be emptiness because it would be too empty to be emptiness. No color, there'd be no seeing. It would just be like it just wouldn't even be anything.
I have a really good question. Because you were talking about everything leads to that source of energy, which is the God energy, right?
Yeah.
Is the God energy all
something
loving?
That, yes. I'd say it's in the middle. It's kind of neutral, I guess, but it does have good energy in it because it is from a high vibration.
Oh, I love that. It's beautiful.
And there are certain versions of it.
Wow.
The God energy.
Yeah, I think it's like really interesting because I can see that they have limited words, limited vocabulary, and they're trying to say something to them that's just like so simple, you know, it's because they just know. I don't know, when I'm watching these kids, I can tune into that they're just trying to say something. I don't know if I'm even making sense, but they're like, they don't have the words to say it, but to them it's so simple that even just saying it in simple words, which can be quite confusing for us to understand what they're saying. I can see like a genuine kind of a genuineness behind these kids of like they know what they're talking
There's
about.
There's definitely a genuineness. What it feels like is that maybe they've said something profound to their parents, which most parents will who are good parents will, and who are listening to their children will have that experience. It seems like their child has said something profound, and now they're trying to fish for the content from their child.
I get
they're trying to like pull something wise, but they're both parents are leading questions and talking from a place of like their own thing, where it's like, oh, so why do we come back into this world? Why do we come back into reality if heaven is so beautiful? Which means that that's their worldview, the parents' worldview, and their kid is obviously grown up with that, and they're asking these leading questions. I also think that children think they know things. And they're like, yeah, it's this. It's simple. But is it the truth, or is it just like a child's perspective? Because I've hung out with my cousins, and they're very sure about what they're talking about. Mm. And sometimes it's like, oh, okay, it's an interesting perspective. I wouldn't 100% agree, or like sometimes it makes no sense at all.
Yeah, because you know, exactly that of being the perspective, you're in your perspective that's limited to your range of understanding and acceptance of what is, and they're in theirs.
No, it's because I think sometimes, like what I see with writing sometimes is like I'll be writing something out, and from my perspective it makes sense because I filled in all the background in my head. But then for someone who might be reading it fresh, they'll be a bit confused, like, wait, who's talking in this moment, or what's happening here? Because in my imagination, I'm seeing it and I'm trying to write it down as best I can. And sometimes I'll slip up and maybe there's a missing piece of context, or like I can see the world that I'm writing, but I haven't put in enough description. So then, I mean, that's one of the beauties of books, is that it's different for everyone. You know, you're filling in your imagination between the gaps of what's been written. And so that's why when books are turned into movies, it's like people are disappointed a lot of the time because it's not how they imagined it. Yeah. But that's how I feel like these kids are talking. It's like they see something in their head, but their words can't bridge the gap between what they're feeling and seeing and into an effective communication style. Because I definitely believe these kids are genuine, and there's like a light and a innocence.
There's also, there is the reason I'm saying genuine is there is the case with, we have child actors, right, where they're being told exactly what to say, and these beliefs are being fed to them like literally as lines in a script, and you see that happens sometimes, you know, in movies and online. The genuineness of, I think these ideas are coming from them, and whether they're influenced by the outside, I do think that everything they're saying is coming from them. They're not being fed it or told exactly what to say. Because sometimes you'll see them like looking at their parents like, what am I supposed to say? But I don't get that feeling from these kids. But on the other hand, I really do disagree with having kids on social media. And maybe, I don't know whether we would have to blur their faces. They're already on social media and their names and everything. So like, I don't see the point of that from our end, but I think there's a healthy way that you could bring up a kid like this. Is if this was my child, like if we had a kid like this, I would film everything profound that they're doing and saying and keep it private so they can have it once they're adults to do what they want with, whether they continue on the path or they just have that memory of like, oh wow, I was like, you know, really.
Do you think the camera could cut off the the channel sometimes though, because it's hard to be organic.
Well, not like
and pull out
every
a
time,
camera.
but I would, because I know I really appreciate footage of me as a kid.
Yeah.
Like I really appreciate having that, seeing me sing and dance.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is it's an alternative way that you can still support this, and they could grow older and want to make a documentary about themselves and things like that, but it would be their choice and they would be grown-ups to decide that.
Yeah, because they don't have the consent until they're adults to really understand like the implications of it.
Yeah, and especially because on one of these videos I saw that of one of the boys' videos, he was responding to a comment someone had said, like a mean comment about him.
Yeah.
So again, he actually has access to looking at hopefully Sevyn doesn't, because I think that's really bad to give access like to the comments and stuff, because it can really like mess with their heads. But I guess we are kind of going off topic. Ones I have are just different random kids. Not people who have like Sevyn and that boy who have a whole social media with tons of footage.
I had a 7-year-old look through my book, which is called Awakening, and in it's some script. She said to her mum, I can read that. This little girl over Skype, I asked her the same thing. Your mum says you can read that. I said, can you do that for me? Oh yes, she said, do you want it in the language or do you want it in English? I said, could you do both? She said, sure. So she came out with the language, she read it, came out with the language, she translated it into English, and I said, do you know the source of this? Oh yes, she said, that's the Breys. 7 years old.
Where's the footage of that?
I don't know.
It's so hard to...
But then in a way that's like a better way to approach it, because they're not publicising the child, but they're still talking
Could have
about
the recording.
Yeah,
Keep the name or blur the face.
And maybe it is out there. Like I didn't dig deep for that, but maybe it is out there.
Yeah, because it's hard to jump in if you're hearing a second-hand account.
Yeah, but again, that's like if this is true, just taking it for what it is, like it could just be true and you just throw it away. But if it is true, then that's pretty impressive, like being able to read. Yeah,
but we can't even see the language. We can't even see what they're talking about.
But I thought, like, because you know what light language is, I thought this one was funny of I'll just show a little bit of her like healing this other little kid, but just because the other little kid's face is so funny.
This is so cute.
Is he so little and he's getting his little energy healing, and I just thought that was like the cutest thing ever. And that's another thing Sevyn does, is there's lots of videos of her doing energetic healings for people.
Is this like a galactic child conference?
Yeah,
where
like
are
it.
they?
I don't know.
But in a way, it just, I mean, sometimes it feels like Dance Moms, but for psychic children.
Yeah. I get that vibe too.
Will you please explain to me how it is you check to see if spirits are around you?
First, you need your pointer and your middle finger on each hand. Both of them.
Okay.
Stuck up.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Put them on your head.
Okay.
They don't have to be even.
Okay.
Just put them on your head somehow.
Okay.
Close your eyes and look around the room. You might see like a human or maybe a face.
What other kind of spirits might there be in the woods?
Like fairies or animals.
Exactly. Animals that aren't living on Earth anymore, right? Yeah. And trees? Do you see the energy of trees by any chance?
I can kind of see it.
Okay, some people can, some people can't. But I want to thank you for that insight, and I want to tell you real quick before I stop recording, do you know why you feel like you need to touch your forehead? Because that connects your third eye and your crown chakra together, okay? Does that make sense?
It seems like taught. It seems taught. It's like a taught thing. It doesn't seem like anyone... It's like... Sometimes you see this...
I thought it was so cute, though.
It was cute. And they obviously have a really open vision or imagination that when they close their eyes, they can see things straight away. I didn't see any spirits in the room, by the way. Although I was very blinded by these lights.
The studio lighting probably doesn't help. I do have another video I want to watch, and I reckon we'll have to do reincarnation on a part 2.
Okay.
So we'll do a whole reincarnation video. I feel like there's a lot we can cover with that topic in general. I don't know if you want to move on to yours and then I'll finish with my other video.
Okay. Yeah, because one of the things we're talking about is like the exploitation of children in any regards, but specifically within this kind of new age realm of psychic manifestation or gifts with superpowers or stuff like that. So this kind of clip that I want to show you it was a big story, and I'm not sure if many people heard it, but basically there is this guru in India. He was in India, and his name is Nithyananda. And I'll show you some footage of him here. And he was quite the controversial figure. You know, in this dark age of the Kali Yuga, there's a lot of false gurus, false teachers. And he was basically marketing to a lot of different people. And his courses ranged. He was like offering psychic courses, psychic development for kids and for adults. And the courses for the children range from $10,000 US upwards. And he called his school the Guru-kul school, Guru-kul. And he was basically promising parents the manifestation of superpowers for their children. And there's really strange stuff like...
Kind of like Stranger Things vibes.
Yeah, yes, I guess, except less CIA.
But I mean, these were kids that had superpowers that were being, I guess they were under a lab environment, but...
Yeah, so this is more like a camp where you learn superpowers for $10,000.
But it kind of does remind me of MK Ultra in a way, but a spiritual version.
Yeah, and as we get
because that's a real thing. I don't know if we still have the episode up.
MK Ultra? Yeah, it's on our audio though.
So audio only, we did a whole episode on that. And it's pretty much like the same thing. Like it's like kids who actually do have...
Well, it wasn't kids that have superpowers. It's kids that are sent off. They could be completely normal, show no signs of anything, and they're sent off to this camp. To
develop them. Yeah. But like he's saying, any kid can develop them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
That I do believe, because everything you've learnt about yogic superpowers, right?
Yeah, I do believe
any human, can develop these powers.
Yeah.
And it's just when it's kind of concentrated on kids, especially in MK Ultra, when it's forced and in a lab environment, it's not humane. And I don't know, from what I'm guessing, with this being a big scandal, it's gonna not be very humane also, right?
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up the MK Ultra thing to remind people that these spiritual topics, these are believed in very high up places where we're told to dismiss this kind of information of psychic abilities, telepathy, telekinesis, remote viewing. These are things that have been studied by the military.
Yeah. I mean,
there's quite a scientific side to this stuff.
Yeah, MK Ultra was done a lot on adult humans, but also pregnant women and children. And they were basically experimenting with sensory deprivation and LSD to develop some sort of power. But what we're talking about here is this Nithyananda Guru-kul school. And Nithyananda, yeah, he's a big figure. He basically takes these kids in.
Where was he based?
In India.
Oh, I was imagining it was in LA.
No, he was in India. And kids are sending parents, and he basically said he's the reincarnation of Shiva, and that just by his blessing, he can bestow powers onto children.
Yeah.
But they still have to develop it. Nithyananda was actually running several ashrams, and he had this whole complex, and he was getting a lot of power, a lot of money, and he eventually got charged and accused with sexual assault and abuse.
To children?
I'm not sure if it was to children, but definitely abuse to children. We'll get into that later. Sexual abuse to women within the cult.
Which you often see with these gurus.
Yeah, and he's actually wanted by the Indian authorities.
There has been a fresh development in the 2010 Nithyananda sex scandal case. Now, Delhi Forensic Lab confirms that it was the godman indeed who was seen in the leaked sleaze tape.
He's still alive.
He's still alive, yeah, and he fled his YouTube channel still going. He fled India and went to an island, and he's trying to develop this island as its own nation. And he even sent this woman to the United Nations to represent him, to try and make these demands for their rights for their own nation. But I'll show you this video now. And this is the girl.
All I can say is be prepared to be amazed. Can you tell us your name?
My name is Ma Yoga Mata.
Are you ready for the blindfold reading?
Yes.
Watch as she reads pieces of paper handed to her by random observers, blindfolded.
Director of successful and respected American business.
Yogamata, I saw what you were doing in there. It's really amazing. But some people at home watching this video might think you're playing a trick on us. Are you playing a trick?
No. If they think I'm cheating, I have ridden a bicycle in blindfold. And if they think I'm cheating from under, I can see only under then. How can I just dodge cars and all of that? There's no way to dodge cars. So I'm not playing a trick. This is how I learned. This is how I know. It's not a trick. It's just a mystical power they can learn. Anybody can.
What exactly does it look like?
When I do blindfold, it looks like everything is just coming like an image. Just pops up and goes. Sometimes when I open my eyes and see all looking around, like how I see you, I see many other stuff. How I look at it is like just an image, and sometimes an image, sometimes like how I look around, like with my normal two eyes.
I brought a clipboard with me here. Can we try this and see how it works?
Okay.
Yeah?
You need a blindfold with me?
Yep, we'll get one.
Okay.
Can you see what face I'm making at you right now? You don't think it's funny?
It's funny!
So I'm going to write something on this paper and you'll read it to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's say I'm only writing one word. Can you tell me what this word says?
Love.
Wow. Pretty amazing. And now, if I draw something, can you see that?
Yeah, I'll tell you and I'll draw it again.
And you'll draw it again?
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. I'm going to draw. I'm not a very good artist. You're probably better than me. Okay, here we go. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's a tree. It's like a Christmas tree.
Exactly, a cedar tree. Here you go.
Oh,
now.
it's a cedar tree.
Yes, and now you'll draw it for me, right?
Yeah.
And you can't see anything?
No.
With your physical eyes?
Yeah, with my physical eyes. Then here's like a stump.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 1, 2.
Oh my gosh, you're doing each piece of grass exactly the same.
Then like this.
Even the, oh wow.
And 1, 2, 3 dots.
Wow. You didn't even draw.
So it later came out that this guy was in with the cult.
Oh, no
even though
way.
it appears that he's separate. And they were feeding, the whole thing was staged. The whole thing was fake. They were feeding information to the girl. And
through an earpiece.
I'm not quite sure exactly how it was.
So I was trying to think, like, how is she getting, like, how is she seeing?
Yeah.
You know, because she does look well blindfolded.
Yeah. Even though it does look really weirdly flimsy. Like there's way better ways to blindfold
but even
someone.
underneath, if you're blindfolded, like you'd have to be like this.
Yeah, you would have to be like that. But it seems like, oh, this could be possible, could be real. But then we're going to go over to a woman who was literally the figurehead of the Nithyananda cult. She used to dress in all the Indian attire, and she used to preach about her guru and everything and all the powers he bestowed upon her.
Swamiji is always giving it a new breakthrough. So whatever you've heard till now, trust me, it gets better. And of course, the ultimate, the latest program which Swamiji is so powerfully conducting, Mahasadashivoham, a 31-day luxury retreat of super consciousness in which you get to experience every Shakti, every superpower.
Even though she was doing intense yogic practices, so it was more so the practices and not really the guru. Yeah. But in the end, she kind of broke away from the cult and she revealed...
Did she live on the island?
Yeah, it was before he was driven out of India.
All right. Do you have a time frame for when all this happened, or? I'm just interested.
So it's around 2019.
Okay, so very recently.
Yeah, and so
when did he move to the island?
Yeah, around that time.
Okay.
Around the time
so
she came out with all the things that were going on, the authorities were also catching on. The authorities were even blocking Nithyananda members from entering India. So, and then there was this whole thing, like it was a conspiracy against him, like that they were trying to create a sovereign nation and enlighten people, all these things. But the authorities were on for quite a long time. And so here's one of the accounts from, I guess her name is Sarah. She had a different name back in the day. And so she was so indoctrinated into the cult. She believed everything. She was in charge of even like speaking with the kids in the Guru-kul system. And she didn't know any of this, but we'll start from here.
And one night, while I was there, the two children, a 13-year-old girl, a boy about that same age, they came downstairs to where I was staying and started to cry. Really, really, they had an emotional breakdown. And the little girl told me that the Akashic record readings she was doing was not real, that she wasn't seeing golden letters and reading people's cosmic answers to their questions. She was actually just making things up. And that the blindfold reading they were doing was also fake. And that they couldn't really body scan, they couldn't really do remote vision. And it was like what I thought was my purpose in life, what I had based so much of my own belief in, was shattering. Because for those of us who are members of that organization, as some of you might remember from my previous videos, the foundation of our belief was that these superpowers were called Shaktis, that they were spiritual powers awakened through the initiation by that guru, and that these kids were basically representatives of him. People made profound life choices based on the answers given to them by these children. And I mean choices like giving up their families to become monastic members of the order, giving all of their money as a donation to the organization, signing up for programs that cost tens of thousands of dollars because kids told them in Akashic reading that they had to. So when she told me that they were faking these powers, at first I found it hard to believe. I was experiencing something that cult psychologists refer to as cognitive dissonance. And that's when we're given a piece of information so contradictory to the worldview we've been brainwashed to believe that we can't even process it. We feel like it is impossible to believe. But because this was a girl who I trusted, a girl who I knew very well, whose parents I had spent a lot of time with, I listened and I asked her, why did you fake these powers? And she cried even harder, and she said that in their school, kids were subjected to starvation, sleep deprivation. They weren't even allowed to get up to go to the bathroom unless they expressed these powers. And she said that the worst thing that happened, and the reason why she was crying to me, she said she was afraid to go back to Bengaluru Adinam, outside of Bidadi, South India, because she didn't want to get beaten again. And this was when, I mean, my life was already unraveling by listening to this child, but when she said that they had been beaten, it was more than I could handle. So I asked her to explain what happened.
So yeah, we hear it from like someone in
it's
in
so
the thing.
interesting. It does make you want to watch the whole thing of like her experience.
Yeah. And basically what was happening was, I'll just give a brief overview, was that Nithyananda, the head of the cult, was trying to develop powers for them, but he was trying to do it through trauma.
Yeah, through force.
And
which is very
when you
MK
think of X-Men, all origin stories all come from a place of trauma. Schools that are claiming to be developed, and the trauma is what activates the power. And so it seems like he was trying to do kind of an X-Men thing, trying to activate their powers, or he was just a fucking crazy bastard who liked to see people in pain. Yeah. And he just wanted to beat the children and into submission and make them continue to pretend like they were showing powers, because he's drawing in a lot of money. And so he needs to have evidence that what he's doing is working. And they also did this crazy thing where they would like fake manifesting diamonds in their mouth. So all of a sudden they would like start spitting out diamonds. But
if I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it.
When a mother is able to create milk in her breasts for her baby, that is a materialization. It's not a joke to be able to create something that nourishes another human being. Interesting. You can touch it. You're free to touch it.
It's actually a magician's trick where they can like regurgitate thing, and then that's what they were doing. So
kind of dangerous if that's kids doing it.
No, it was adults.
Yeah.
It was adult women doing it. But
still.
Yeah. This brings us on again to like all these, you see the kids with the blindfolds. It's the same guy. He's here again.
That's suspicious.
Do I need to come closer? Okay, I'll come closer for you. What does it look like? I'll come closer.
See, why did they need it to be closer? And why is he going like this with his head? He was just...
Okay, I'll come closer for you. What does it look like? I'll come closer.
See? He's kind of going
for
like
you.
this.
What does it look like? I'll come
blurred.
closer.
And then when it goes closer...
It's like an owl. It is an owl. Fabulous.
The ideal age to learn is between 5 and 12. Nicholas says after 12, the left side of the brain, both critical and logical, interferes with the spiritual lessons.
And run down your arm, jump off your fingers and go and touch something in front of you. Feel it with your energy, anything you like. And then come all the way back in, run up your arm, back in your head.
I'm confident. I can do anything.
And I can do anything. You might say God was fair to children. He gave them the power to believe in themselves without any...
Now I just don't trust this guy.
Yeah, because he was here with this one,
Yeah.
and he was in the exact same...
And you said he was known to be involved with the cult.
And that the whole thing was faked, and she's come out saying the whole thing is fake. They couldn't actually read these things. It was all... And she didn't go into the details of how it was faked, especially the blindfold reading, but... Yeah, very interesting. So it's just such a strange world.
Yeah, like the thing is that I was thinking that these types of schools would be more about having a nurturing environment, because like if you think of the documentary we watched called Superhuman, and they're exploring these superhuman powers, but with adults. And there's lots of scientific studies going on around these abilities. And you have to be in a very calm, non-anxious, non-traumatized mindset to be able to do the remote viewing.
But then at the same time, I suffered some trauma as a child. And from that trauma, I learned to dissociate.
Yeah.
And that made me really good at astral projection.
Yeah.
Because I knew how to dissociate from my body. And
it's true.
And I've heard like psychics, a lot of psychics say
but I guess not to the point of like you have to see this, like, and you're being beaten until you can read the Akashic records. Like,
no,
I just don't see how you're ever gonna get good results from that.
Yeah.
Like the dissociation thing, like I can totally imagine, but like that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes you're just going to go into fight or flight mode where you just have to make stuff up just so you just stop getting beaten.
Yeah.
I think it's more easy when you're like desperate, where you feel like your life's you're gonna lose your life. You're gonna do that. Whereas if you're in like a good place and you're able to dissociate and go out of body, you're going to have more success.
So then they just say that they were manifesting the powers and then making it up.
Yeah.
I definitely believe in the notion of psychic abilities, because I just believe everything's frequency, and when you are attuned to these things, you can be able to read those frequencies and tune in using the antenna of your mind.
Yeah.
I definitely believe it's possible, but at the same time, like you see all these scams and these weird worlds where psychic children are kind of being exploited.
I just had one more video that I wanted to watch.
What's it about?
Have you seen this? The volunteers. What I like about this is that they have the child acting as the soul version of ourselves, the astral version of ourselves. And I think that's really interesting that they use the child, because we're talking about children, and I do think they have this like innocence. I feel like they're very close to who we are on a soul level. I like the idea of them being represented by children, and then in this, when they're talking to each other, they're talking telepathically.
So tell me, out of everything you've ever done, what's the craziest experience you've ever had?
That's easy. Earth.
Earth? You went to Earth?
I did.
No way. You were a human?
I was.
Wow. Are the stories about Earth true? Were they really trapped on Earth?
Some were. I know because I was one of the volunteers.
Wait a second. You volunteered to go to Earth?
I did. I had to. I had family trapped on Earth.
But how could you get trapped on Earth?
You had to be there to understand. On Earth, you wouldn't remember anything.
What do you mean you wouldn't remember anything?
I mean, you would have no memory of anything. You wouldn't even remember existing before Earth.
What? How is that possible?
It was designed that way. It was brilliant. To dive as deeply as possible into such ignorance, such darkness, and still find your way back to remembering who you were, that took true mastery.
Wow. I still can't believe you.
I thought it was interesting to show because it's just, this whole volunteer thing is the Starseed thing.
Yeah.
And It's like connected to these Starseed children, Starseed adults, and it's telling like the story where a lot of people who are watching are not gonna understand at all anything about the Starseed. So I feel like this really sums it up, because it's the same belief everyone has, and it's the best way I've seen it depicted. I haven't watched all these because I don't have the time.
One day Anna told me about a traumatic event that happened involving an earthquake in her village. Anna told me that the earthquake was such that parts of the ground started to open and sands fell in and roofs started collapsing, and much of the townspeople fled. And she described it very specific, as if she were witnessing it all over again. I was amazed. Anna has drawn several of her memories. One of the first things that she drew was islands where she used to live. It was as if she drew a map that she once saw when she was there.
Anna starts recalling spontaneously. The other morning, she woke up and said, I just remembered the entire language. And she said, I don't know how, I don't know what's going on, but I need a piece of paper and a pen.
She drew them on a 3x5 card for me and began to put English words next to some of them.
It looked like ancient writings. This whole thing is blowing me away. When we started to find information that matched what she told us, we were amazed. We were online one day. On the screen was that scientists had found this ancient civilization named Heraklion. It was a digital recreation of what they think Heraklion resembled. Heraklion was an ancient civilization that had been discovered underwater in the year 2000. Its beginning goes back to about 12th century BC. Researchers had said that it was a port city and that a big earthquake led to it being underwater.
So the experience that Anna describes of a series of earthquakes is very much like Heraklion.
And Heraklion was on an odd-shaped island. When Anna and I saw that, we thought, that's exactly what you...
Yeah, we just looked up the script and it looks Egyptian, not like the things she was writing down. But she could be remembering different things, or it could be like a confirmation bias where she's described something and her parents are like, oh, earthquake happened here. It's this...
You know what my first thought was? Atlantis. Because we still haven't discovered Atlantis, and it's a very important part of the history that a lot of people feel connected to that isn't proven by science yet.
Yeah, no one's found evidence of Atlantis.
Yeah.
This is a Linear B tablet.
But that doesn't look that different.
This is Linear B from Crete.
That looked closer to what she was drawing.
Yeah, that looks closer. But then at the same time, like, she drew a mango script. One of the scripts was a mango, and I don't think they had mangoes in Crete. You know, mango's a very
so
tropical
she could have been in
jungle
a different
fruit
zone, I imagine.
So, yeah, it seems, like they're projecting onto Heraklion or whatever.
Yeah.
But.
So that is all the content that is really related. What I wanted to touch on in this video is Starseed kids or crystal children and this whole concept, and that kind of touches a little bit into psychic kids, which we did with the guru as well. The points that I kind of came away with after watching this content. So the first point is, if kids, like animals, have these gifts to see and know beyond this world, could this be why over the years we've continued to try to control and overpower children, their imagination and innocence? From kids working in factories back in the early 1900s or 20th century, right? Kids were working in factories, to suppressing their creativity at schools, Right now we see that kids are way less creative as soon as they start school. We're destroying their brains with tech and social media, and now getting them even younger than ever as we've arrived at a time with the iPad babies.
Yeah.
So what I started with is the point that kids and animals seem to naturally have these gifts to see and know beyond this realm. Adults have continued to try and suppress the kids because the kids have a voice and they grow into adults, and if they was to continue to develop their natural vision, knowings and abilities that they have access to at a young age, they could become very difficult to control as adults. So it seems to be that our culture have tried to suppress this in kids. With the iPad babies, it's even worse than ever. We're distracting them from their own inner imagination, wisdom, knowing, seeing when we stick them in front of an iPad. And schools do the same thing. So I thought that's an interesting discussion.
I guess it's the discussion of like allowing children to develop their creativity, their freedom, their connection to different frequencies, different states of mind, keeping their imagination active.
Yeah, as soon as you go to school, you're just constantly told, no, you're wrong, you do it like this. And it just eventually beats any kind of intuition or creativity out of most kids.
Yeah, I remember like as a kid, they would tell me to do like a creative writing exercise. And there was a certain age where I was like very good at it. And then after a certain point, I remember just looking at a blank screen and like my imagination just didn't work.
Yeah.
And it took me like quite a while. Through marijuana actually helped me unlock my creativity again. Now I obviously do writing for a living, so I can imagine again and make things up. But yeah, the school system does take your creativity away, and it's still designed to make kids listen and productive members of society, which is why most things, it's like go to school, go to university, within a very limited realm of career options, and then go straight into the field and contributing straight away to society. And children are taught from very young to start following this mind, and they're instilled into the mind frame of our culture, and it's quite hard to escape from. And there's only a couple schools that really, and like the Waldorf or the Rudolf Steiner schools, which are directed more towards letting kids develop their own creativity and tailoring classes for the kids and for the individual instead of as a group and for standardized testing reasons.
I did want to touch on earlier when the last video we watched, and you were saying, well, it seems like the parents have projected their own belief onto the kid by saying, oh, it must be this island that's just been discovered that was sunken, and that's coming from them, right? I really wanted to find this clip for the podcast, which was like 3 or 4 years ago. I watched this video on YouTube, I think, which was like a mum being interviewed who had 2 Starseed children, these 2 boys, and they were traveling around in the van. And one of the things I always remember in that video is one of the kids was like jumping off the headboard of the driver's seat and flipping onto the mattress, and it like he could have really hurt himself doing it because he's like constantly doing it, and it's quite high up, and he could have banged into loads of stuff. And she on instinct turned around like, oh, can you stop doing that, you're gonna hurt yourself. And the kid turned around to his mum and went, Mum, stop projecting your fear onto me. And it was like this 5-year-old kid, and it was just so much wisdom alone in that comment, and how we do project onto our kids all the time. But that alone, I learnt so much just from that one comment from that kid, because I project fear, especially like onto my animals. So that was, I felt like a very profound insight coming from this 5-year-old little boy. And that's sort of my point of, I did want to go on to my next point, which is, as easy as it is to dismiss these children's claims as the result of a creative imagination, I ask you, what makes us think we don't have anything to learn from children? Children already do many things better than us. They speak their minds, they express their emotions, they use play to explore creativity, they have less fear, and they live in the present moment.
I definitely think those kids are, especially the TikTok kids you showed me, are in their own worlds. And yeah, we might be projecting that it's just their imagination. It might also just be their imagination.
Yeah.
And because they're in that theta state, they don't distinguish what's real, what's not.
But what's to say the theta state isn't access to seeing beyond this realm, connecting with, in other episodes we've explored the fact that it seems that aliens, non-human beings, are traveling around this way, like via accessing that state of consciousness.
Yeah, I think the theta brainwave state is very, very beneficial, and that we should be trained more in the brainwave states. And we don't know
enough about it to really know for sure that it's not the gateway. It could even be the portal itself.
I think it is a portal, because the theta brainwave state is also when you're in a liminal state, and that's what all psychics, I was very into lucid dreaming and astral projection, and the liminal state is the state of the oracle. And when you're properly in a liminal state, when I've been in liminal states, I can make brilliant compositions of music, like really intricate piano melodies with violins, with the whole orchestra. I can just visualize it in my head. I can see images of distant places that I've never been to before, with strange stone monuments and all sorts of things like that. I can have access to and contact with weird entities that are angles of light that don't actually have a form. I've been into all those states within the liminal phase, and it's very cool if like children are in a liminal state constantly, but then at the same time there is imagination. What's imagination? And I feel like there is a difference. When I'm imagining something, there's a knowing inside my body that I'm creating this, I'm generating this. When I'm in a liminal state, it feels like I'm being shown this. It's not me generating it. It's like images are appearing, but it seems external from myself. Mm-hmm. So these children might be in a liminal state experiencing these things. And they also might be imagining. It might be a bit of both.
Yeah.
You never know. And I do believe these kids, and I think it is hard to synthesize the authenticity on camera, especially if it's a whole channel dedicated to this kid, and they're uploading frequently on TikTok.
Both the channels, to be fair, are their mum's channels.
Okay.
And the mum posts a lot of content just of the mums.
Okay.
And then sometimes they have content with their kids.
Yeah, but it's hard to be like pulling out a camera as your kid is saying something cool, you know? So it's probably like they said something cool and they pulled out the camera and be like, hey, what cool thing were you saying? But then by then the kid's mind is moved on, and you can, it's very hard to capture that moment. So I think that's
and it's just like with these documentaries, you don't actually capture the kid saying exactly what they said to their parents when they remembered their past life. It's the parents repeating it and telling the story of what happened. But then you get a bit more evidence behind that, because then the documentary makers or even the parents themselves go out to try and discover more about this past life, and then find like, oh my god, this was an actual person. There's no freaking way my kid even knows about this person.
Yeah. Well, if I was hearing that child, the girl, Sevyn, if I was hearing her being like, oh, these beings interacted with me, this is what they look like, and this is what they said, But the fact that it's labeled Anunnaki, Syrian, or, Greys, she knows those words. She knows who they are. And I don't think they told her those words. When a kid is very young and they don't have any access to technology, because you have to rule out, have they been exposed to this before? And the other opposite side of that argument is that, oh, maybe they are exposed to it, and then that's what triggers the memory, and they're meant to see that so that they can remember.
They would have, I believe, come through if they actually came here to be doing the work. Sevyn particularly is we're here to help. We came here to be with the other kids because that group of kids are bringing in a big change. And I definitely do believe in the volunteers. I believe in Starseed movement, which is a lot of souls who have a lot of experience on other planets coming into Earth for the first time, all at a similar time. And I believe we're even a part of that generation, but I think it's getting more intense as the kids get younger, as we actually get closer to that time. And that's why we're seeing so many autistic children and children with very different needs, where it's forcing change in our society. I was thinking also, when you have out-of-body experiences and you'll get names and you don't recognize them, then you'll go online and you'll research it.
I never gotten names.
All right. But people do often, they'll research online after and then find out
oh
my God, this is an experience other people have had, and they find connection with that, and that's why these books are written and stuff. And there are books that are based on the Palladians and all different types of races and who they are and what they do, and where people are doing it from their perspective, but other people will have an experience completely, have never read any of that content, and be drawn to it and just find more information to almost open up that energy more for them.
Yeah. And at the same time, it could all just be one giant collective myth that's arising from our society at this time, because the Scientologist guy kind of generated his whole entire alien history. Could these different races be a part of the collective consciousness trying to represent something for us? Because I know that humanity, since the beginning of time, has made metaphors of the stars, turned them into great characters of strength. And
tablets that are thousands of years old that have spaceships and UFOs and things.
Yeah, but just like how the Christians will project the kingdom of God was a projection of how we organize our society. And it could be as above, so below our kingdom. But I don't think the kingdoms of humans represent the kingdoms of heaven. But at the same time, that's how humans have structured it. And so how much of it is our own projection? And so I'm not saying that these beings don't exist, but how much of their structure, this galactic federation of light, these beings that are kind of in commune with one another, and there's ambassadors and there's this and that, how much of that is our own projection onto that system? Because most of the beings that I've interacted with are such high frequency, such high vibrational states that they don't actually have form. They don't have the concept of societal or organized structure in the way that we do. I mean, they have the concept because they're highly intelligent, but they don't operate in those structures. So how much of what we know about these alien races or things like that are organized through our human perspective to kind of try and make sense of it? Yeah, so I'm always interested in more of children who not have been exposed to this and then are kind of describing what they see and are drawing stuff, and then we make the connections for them, oh, whoa, that looks like this.
And yeah, her mum was experiencing them because she was very young. But like the scars on the skin and the going into the room. Also found it very interesting how what did she say, powers of the spaceships?
Electric magnetism.
Yeah, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, because
not what
that's
you'd
cool.
expect. She came out with it so quick.
So we don't know what her mother's talked about, but we know that like the theory of electromagnetic propulsion.
But I just feel like if that wasn't coming from you at that younger age, I don't know if it would come out like that so quick, so naturally.
Yeah, I definitely think they're tuning in, and I believe she's having conversations with what she believes is that. I don't doubt her or try to discredit her.
Yeah.
I just don't know, because I know that you can have conversations with beings and it could be completely imaginary or it could be real. I used to play so real that I believed it was real. And that's the power of a child's imagination.
Yeah.
But
it's happening at night in her sleep, not while she's playing.
Yeah, so she could be having some sort of out-of-body experience or some sort of liminal lucid dreams, or that's allowing her access. But then, the scratches and scars are strange, and that she said it was like this person Omi who lives in a different place, and that they are appearing as, someone you love.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Especially the electromagnetic propulsion, because that was what Nikola Tesla was proposing.
Yeah.
And if in the latest Vril episodes, the Vril drives are some form of electromagnetic implosion technology.
Yeah. I feel like I read energy and I totally get where Trey's coming from. But I get a very, like, even from Sevyn, the boy I'm not so sure about. I think he's a very wise kid. But with Sevyn, where even with her mum as well, I feel like the energy is very genuine there.
But children can be wise. Like my cousins, they're not into spiritual things really.
They're smart.
But they're very smart and they're very wise about certain things. And they'll just say something and it's like, whoa, that was profound.
That's like what the points I was making mostly about kids is I think we can learn a lot more from kids than we can teach them. And they can really bring something in, especially from a spiritual context.
I think it's hard to prove psychicness or, hard to be convinced by it. Unless you're in a situation where you're upfront with it. Like the only reason I believed in any of it was because I started having out-of-body experiences.
Yes.
I started experiencing things. I started having shared experiences with other people where we would both go out of body and see the same thing. And so I'm like, okay, there is definitely more to this. And thoughts, emotions, it's all frequency, it's all energy. We can interpret people's emotions when someone walks into a room, even if their face is neutral. We'll get an instinctual vibe from them based on what they're emitting. And that is very scientific. It's chemicals and it's frequencies. And people's auras are their awareness, the energy that they're inhabiting. So when someone's very depressed and down, even if they look perfect on the outside,
even it's not scientifically proven.
What?
Auras and
it's not. I'm not saying like the light aura, but I do think that light reacts to substance. Right? Light refracts in glass. But I think it is physical because when your aura, it might not be, I'm not saying the color of your aura as a representation.
Yeah.
I'm saying like you have a radius with which your energy emits. And that's the frequency of your cells, the frequency of your bodies, the chemicals that you're releasing, because plants can sense the chemicals of other animals, of us, and that's how actually plants speak. They speak through impulse, through chemical impulses and stuff like that. And their auras, the range of their influence can stretch for a long time. And I know that I'm talking more of an it's not empathic, but it's chemicals and
it is
energy. And energy through electrical impulses that our body is emitting.
Energy is felt through the emotions, right?
And our body is electromagnetic. We emit a reading. So if someone's going to hold an electromagnetic thing, it's going to emit a reading based on the human field.
Yeah.
And I think some human fields can be larger than others, and it all depends on the energy circulating within your body. So if you're depressed, your aura is going to be collapsed. It's going to be inwards. That's how your energy is going to feel. So when someone's interacting with you, they might start feeling that way or feeling you in that way because of how it is. And then if someone's really positive, really vibrant and energetic, their pose, and they're emitting this wide energy, it's almost like people's heads will turn or people will move out of the way for that person because their aura, that energy, has such a huge radius that it's, especially if they have good boundaries, people can't really enter that. Or if it's very welcoming, people will want to hug you. So there is, I'm saying just the aura of your body, not just in terms of color, but at the same time, light, like I was saying before, light refracts off different substances, off surfaces, and photons are very small. So if we're emitting, let's say, kind of like the mirage on a heat in the sand, in the desert, there's kind of like the waves of air.
Yeah.
I think like on a very, very, very ethereal level, our body is emitting those. And I think you can see that through thermal imaging and different sorts of light variations. So I think that light could be bending in certain ways, which might make someone's aura appear different based on kind of the substance they're emitting, the electromagnetic frequency they're resonating at.
Yeah.
Because light and frequency also has color. The ultraviolet rays of the sun compared to the color bandwidth that we see through our eyes.
Yeah, and there's we know thoughts affect things. Thoughts have energy and they can affect things. So if you put negative thoughts onto water versus positive thoughts, it's expressed. You can literally see it in the water itself
and
under
even
a
just
microscope.
The aurora borealis in the sky is electromagnetic frequency from the sun interacting with the atmosphere of our planet. It has this dazzling spectacle of light, and I think most of our senses are tuned to a specific bandwidth, but if you can somehow see beyond that bandwidth, like we can't see X-ray, we can't see ultraviolet, we can't see a lot of different spectrums, but I think when you open up your vision and your enhanced senses, you can begin to perceive that, even if it's not directly through your eyes. Maybe you'll look at someone and you can just might have an imprint, and that's when kind of synesthesia comes in. That's why I think if the Earth is one big electromagnetic frequency, it has its own field, and humans have their own fields, then, and if the Earth can kind of have its own aura and resonance, then humans must have their own too. And I think that it is pretty scientific in that regard, even if there's no device that can show us exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yet. Because people didn't believe in the meridian system until someone came along and actually figured out how to measure that. What do you guys think about psychic children, or about psychic things in general? I know I was playing very skeptical on this side of things because I have seen a lot of fake shit. That's, I think, something that's tainted my mind as well. I'm very skeptical now, and I used to not be this way. Well, I was very this way, and then I was very not this way.
Yeah, and then you went back to being that way.
Yeah, because I used to be so open to everything, and in a way that's great, but at the same time, you need discernment.
Yeah.
And discernment's very important because then people can play you the fool. And that's how these people are going to the Guru-kul school, being manipulated by these teachers. And the more and more I saw of it, I'm like, oh my God, all of this, so much shit is fake.
Yeah.
But I really believe that these children are tuning into something. And I think it's best to just not influence them in that way, to put in other influences into their head. Like, I think it's cool. I think it's fun for them to learn these things. But I think children, they know a lot. But at the same time, like, I would want to teach my child astral projection or something like that.
I know that you'll want to like tell them about fairies.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of people talk about Santa. These are healthy ways to encourage a child's imagination.
Which is why
some of my best memories are from believing in the Tooth Fairy, believing in Santa, and having that fantasy of something so magical. I'm very open to it, and I particularly think animals and kids, I see animals seeing spirits all the time, you know?
Yeah.
And I think kids are very similar, and if we go back to, like, I was raised atheist and I didn't believe any of this stuff, but when I was 15 I had a shared experience. I was with a friend and of a poltergeist in the house who was literally chucking books off the shelf, cups of tea on the floor. The dog was freaking the hell out, curling up in a corner, wouldn't move. I'm seeing this with my own eyes, you know, books don't throw themselves off shelves, cups of tea don't throw themselves on the floor when no one's doing it. And this completely opened up my world, and you could literally feel the dark presence of something. It was actually terrifying. It was thick in the air, and it just completely opened me up. And from that moment on, I was like, okay, there's something beyond what we think we know and what we think we can see.
Yeah, and I totally believe with you. I'm with you on that side of things. I mean, I definitely believe there's more. We both
had experiences like that.
There's definitely more than meets the eye. And
I think I'm relating it back to the animals. You know, you don't question the animals, but as soon as it's a human, we're kind of naturally raised to distrust. But we don't necessarily think that with, that cat's pretending to be watching a spirit around the room, even though it was completely asleep a second ago.
But I didn't see any footage of a child suddenly looking at a spirit and then describing what they saw.
Just like you say, that stuff is really hard to get on. Even hard to get animals on camera doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I have seen that one kid where he's, you know, going and he's pointing at a ghost. It's talking to him and the mother doesn't see anything and he just keeps pointing and looking at it.
Yeah.
So I've seen footage like that, which it's hard to discredit because the kid definitely believes they're seeing these things.
Yeah.
So I don't discredit any of that.
And having watched so many channels and how even adults can struggle to translate the information that they're receiving out of body, to even understand it in the human mind and the human language is very difficult. And I really can believe that, you know, because they're not living by the same rules as us. Like, we come here, we have linear time, we have gravity, we have these fixed rules that we all stick by when we're living on Earth, but God knows what's going on other planets and how different it is, and how well an adult could even translate that information, let alone a 6-year-old.
Yeah, I'm not discrediting the validity of these children's experiences, but I am kind of questioning the information that's being presented through the video, through the mom, through the parents. And like, I
definitely don't
feel that probably
it's
wasn't the best time to record your child.
I don't agree with like putting children on social media at all.
Like, there were things that I experienced that I couldn't really talk about until like 5 years later, and then I'm suddenly coming out with this information out of my mouth that I'm like, oh, now I have words for it. But it was like back in the day, I didn't have the words for it.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of integrated. It takes time for these really out there things to integrate into the system in order to be able to transmit that into
and you know
words.
that because you have it from your perspective, but then someone from the outside could be like, oh, but now you've just had time to make up that experience and turn it into what you want it to be about. And this is the thing with channelers and everyone in this world, is there's so many fakes, okay, and that's, you can't avoid that. And it's such a shame because, like you say, with that fake guru, he's using actual ancient techniques that really are real and beneficial. And that's why people stay in the cult for so long, because they're doing yoga, they're doing meditation, they're doing these things that are good for them and helping them on their spiritual journey. But they're adding their fucked up, warped desires, reality into the cult, into the group. So
yeah, I mean, most people who want to be a figurehead, just the desire to be famous or the desire to want to be a figurehead in its own right just is a red flag.
Yeah.
Because it shows that you kind of want control or admiration on a large scale.
So these spiritual kids and starseed kids, crystal children, there's something very interesting about them, at least for me. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I feel like we have been rambling on a bit. Let us know what you think, you know, which side of the fence are you sitting on? Or are you sort of like me and Trey, where we're very kind of in the middle on it? Like, we want to do more sort of reacting content on these long form videos.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you guys think about these children. Have you seen any other children or adults, or have any proof of psychic abilities? And
any personal experience?
Thank you once again. And if you feel like supporting us or watching any of our other videos, we've got tons of videos. And we will see you next time.